there we go. It's audio. Birth of the new world. Both Urbit itself, I see as a new world being born, and I'm hoping that turf can be its own little new world within Urbit. So this, if you're not familiar, is what turf looks like. This is one instance of a turf, one belonging in particular to Pandux. As you can see, there are other people in the turf who have their own turfs. So each turf is a rectangular plot of land, and the owner has total control over placing items, customizing the appearance. Once we add permissions, they can decide who's allowed in and who's not. And you have portals in between turfs as well. So if you see those houses, those are the inhabitants of this town, and those inhabitants can also build portals in between each other's turfs. So we have emerging a network of turfs that are connected by portals, which can become arbitrarily large and complex because we use Urbit's decentralized nature to host each turf on the owner's own Urbit ship. So there's really no bound to how large it can become. If I got hit by a bus and Pandux went down, you could still use turf as long as the people you're talking to had their Urbits running. So we don't have time in the demo to go through all the turfs, so I have a GIF here of some of the different things people have built. People have uploaded some of their own custom artwork, some of it more polished than others, and they're creating their own worlds, really making use of the fact that you have the power to do whatever you want with your own turf, and it's yours forever, and it's free. In the words of the great Tim Heidecker, it's free real estate. So I'm John Hyde, also known as midlev-mindyr, or as I like to say, midlev-mindyr. I have a history as a full-stack developer, and the crying emoji there is because, as you may know, being a full-stack developer in the current web environment is often painful due to the fact that software has just gotten more and more complicated for no good reason, and things break all the time, and to get anything done, you have to do terrible, terrible things. So I was very glad to find out about Urbit a couple of years ago, and the vision really appealed to me for a number of reasons, and I dove into the technology. I learned Hoon from the Hoon docs, because Hoon School was not yet being run at that time, and I had an idea for a project, so I got a grant from the Urbit Foundation to make Astrolabe. This was just sort of a fun utility app. You could put in a pat-p and see what star it was under, whether it was L2 or L1. If they'd released any apps, you could see that. Sort of a general utility app, which people found useful, but it wasn't something they used actively a lot, which becomes relevant later. So after I finished that at the end of the year, around the end of the year last year, I was thinking about what I could build that would really make Urbit better, or help Urbit grow, or help Urbit become more Urbity. And I realized that one of the key promises about Urbit that got me really excited was the fact that all the apps can theoretically work together on the same data that lives on your ship to produce new interactive experiences that you can only get in the current web with things like Google, where all their services work together, but they don't work together with another company's services. But on Urbit, everything can work together. But I didn't see that actually happening outside of PAL's integration, for example. There wasn't a lot of inter-app communication and integration, so I started working on a plugin system called Monkey. I didn't get to the plugin system exactly, but I worked on a patching system which let you sort of add your own code on top of an existing app. And people thought that was kind of cool, but they didn't really use it. And I didn't have the opportunity to demonstrate its usefulness because, again, Astrolabe was not something people are actively using, so I couldn't use that as a vehicle for advertising my plugin system and showing its usefulness. So I had a bit of a solution in need of a problem, so I decided to make a problem, and that's turf. So the idea with turf is, yes, it's a fun app, and it allows for this infinite world to be created, and it gives the opportunity to hook into other Urbit apps. So turf really sees its full potential when it's integrating with the rest of Urbit. So hopefully this will allow me to develop a good plugin system as well, or if someone else gets there first, to use that. So I've talked a bit about why I like Urbit and why I built turf, or why I'm building turf, but there's a deeper motivation that's sort of a more visceral drive towards doing these things, and it relates to Groundhog Day. I'm trying to press the button, but it's not. There we go. So this is Bill Murray. If you're not familiar with the movie, in this scene, he's kidnapped a groundhog and he's driving towards the edge of a cliff. And he's about to crash at the bottom and die. But he doesn't actually die because he knows that he's in a situation where whatever he does, he'll wake up the next morning with no consequences. And I don't advocate this kind of behavior, but the fact that he has this awareness means that as a viewer, I know that the next scene might be anything. Unless I've seen the movie before, there's no limitation on my imagination of what might happen in the next scene. There's infinite possibility. And this is sort of fittingly an AI-generated image. And side note, the 4 images it gave me almost all looked exactly like this, and I don't know what about the circle with the C really, I don't know what that's about. Anyway, so the other thing about Urbit is, it's this totally new conception of what an Urbit, or what a computer looks like and how it works. And to me, it communicated this idea of infinite possibility, that the new world of Urbit computers could look totally different from what we have today. And that really excited me. And it's one of the things that excites me about Turf as well, because with as an arbitrary number of people building on Turf and customizing their Turfs with custom behaviors and custom artwork, there's just going to be an infinite possibility of things you might discover when wandering around Turf and people you might meet. So that's really exciting. Here I have systems better than content, because that's really how you get to infinite possibility in a software program. If I just made some Turfs that looked cool, that would not really have the same appeal as creating systems in Turf that allow you to create infinite content and allow more and more people to add their content to the system. So really quickly, the Turf's main systems that allow things to develop infinitely with infinite possibility. At the network level, you have players who are building and moving between Turfs using portals. So this sort of allows for an infinitely or unboundedly expanding network of Turfs connected to each other and players moving between them and discovering them. In a particular Turf, the possibility comes from the interaction of players in space, interacting with items in space to generate item interactions which move the players and the items in space and add more items and remove players or whatever. And also player-to-player interaction is pretty key and sort of the other main piece of the appeal of Turf. There's exploring the world and interacting with it, and there's hanging out with your friends. So these are the systems at a Turf level. So now I'd like to show you some of what I'm talking about. Live demos are always exciting because you never know what's going to happen. All right, so this is approximately what you see when you boot up Turf for the first time. What I have here in the middle is just a gate, and that's where I'll appear when I portal in. Here's my character. I can walk around, on this grid. If I click on the Profile tab, I can customize my appearance. So maybe I'll give myself some, what do you think? Maybe some dark blue skin, like that. A rich blue. Make it a little desaturated. Okay. So, maybe, okay, it's a little hard to see. I'll make it a bit lighter. So I think some angry eyebrows would be fitting for this. And then maybe give myself a big grin. Yeah, okay. I think that's good. So now I've got my character sort of expressing my personality a bit better, and I can customize my space. So first thing I'm going to do is scrunch it down. This is a bit much to work with. Just really make it a cozy little place. So I think I have this man-eating plant, which I actually stole from somewhere else. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to have a path to the plant from the portal. Really streamline that portal to plant pathway. And I'll have a little room in here too. And like a little enclosure. Okay, that's where I can live and sleep on the grass. So, all right, so I've got my Turf, but there's no one here except for me. It's kind of lonely. I'm going to see if I can go into town and meet some people. So I'm going to click on the Town tab, and I happen to know that Pandux is a star that automatically accepts any request to join. So I'm just going to add Pandux as my hometown, and now you can see my gate has turned into a portal. So this will take me to the town of Pandux, and hopefully there will be some people in there I can talk to. So I don't know if you guys can see, but up here in the URL, I'm actually at something.redhorizon.com. Red Horizon has graciously given me this planet to demo with, and they might be able to give out some more planets. We'll get to that later, but looks like we're just about there. Sometimes connecting is faster and sometimes it's slower, but there's some people in here. Ooh, Watsat Figma is here. All right, yeah. Oh, hi. What's that? I mean, what's up? I zoomed in on accident. That's okay. So as you can see, you've got some portals down here to other places. Yes, good talk. These go to other stars. This one goes to a galaxy. This one goes to a galaxy. So I'm going to just wander around a little bit, see if there's anything I want to steal. Ooh, I like that giraffe. So I'm going to go here into the Edit tab and select the giraffe. And I'm going to import that to my turf. So giraffe. Let me load the image. Yeah, I think that looks good. I'll have this giraffe appear in front of the player when I load it in. And I will have it not block movement. So this giraffe is going to be sort of permissive of his, letting people into his personal space. Okay, so there's the giraffe. I'm going to go home now. To do so, I could just go home at any time from the portals tab, but I'm going to add a house. So I want to live here. I'm going to put my house right here. And I'm going to just sort of try and dodge these two things here. All right, step to my house. So here we are. I'm going to put my giraffe down in this giraffe enclosure. Okay. So you can imagine if you can go around and grab items from any turf you visit, and there are an infinite number of turfs to visit, you can probably just populate your turf with an infinite number of different things. Not to mention I could upload my own, but we're not going to do that right now. So I'd like to go back to the slides and talk about, we've seen what turf is right now, but I want to talk about what's next. So obviously, permissions are important. Currently, it's sort of a free-for-all out there. Anything you can create might get deleted or modified by someone else. So permissions will be coming soon. We'll calm down a little bit and let you decide who gets into your turf and who doesn't, who has permission to edit things, etc. I'm sure top of mind for many of you will be voice and video chat. It's coming, I promise, eventually, in the short to medium term. So if you walk up to someone, you'll be able to start a voice or video call with them within that little area. Better tools for creating items. Many of you have asked for animated items. Those will be coming, as well as integrations with AI, so you can put in a prompt and get sort of a starting image. It might not be perfect, but you can edit it with an in-game pixel art editor to get some item art. And then I think one of the really key things is interactions with items. Right now, there's not a lot you can do with an item. Some items like signs have text you can display, but I want to make it so any item can trigger any effect with any input. So maybe you bump into a tree and it portals you somewhere, or you bump into a soccer ball and it moves over a square, or you interact with a door and it opens. Imagine that. So things like that. I think with a few basic building blocks, we can have some really interesting item behavior in the short term. And I know you were all wondering when I was going to talk about NFTs, so yes, there will be some NFTs, and it's not just for the sake of NFTs. These NFTs will allow there to be an item market in the game. So if you want to be Scrooge McDuck, you should just make some items in turf, turn them into NFTs, and then let people buy them from you. And then I can take a little bit of the little tiny cut of that, and we can have some stonks going on. This would be you giving your item in exchange for apples, but in this case, apples would be ether or something like that. So that's sort of how I plan to make money. This is a business, not just a hobby project. So sort of a long-term dream. Again, item interactions, I think, are really key. So beyond just having things happening in turf, I want to have things in turf, creating effects outside of turf, and then producing effects back into turf, so it's a big mush of Urbit happening in your turf. So you can imagine maybe there's a maze and you get to the end, and when you step on the end tile, you get invited to a private group for maze solvers. Maybe there's a TV you can click on or walk up to and you start watching something in radio. And then maybe there's a scoreboard from Alphabet where you can bet on the outcome of the video. Maybe it's like a fight or something. Maybe it's like a fight that's like happening at Urbit Assembly or something. I won't be ready for that time, but maybe next year. Maybe you could have a chessboard where you have life-size pieces, player-size pieces, and you move them around and it interacts with a chess game in the chess app, and maybe someone else just thinks they're playing a normal chess game. Little do they know they're actually playing someone who's a turf master. And there's really no limit, so you could create an agent specifically for turf interactions, have your item interaction, call your agent, and then you run some calculations within your MMO that you've programmed, and then your turf is an MMO. Like it just pokes turf with whatever effects happen. There's really, you can really do anything. Or you will be able to once I have a plugin system. So infinite customizability, this could extend beyond item interactions into rendering. So you could maybe have a turf that provides its own 3D renderer, and you could walk around like a VR chat. You could have one that has high-res images instead of 32 by 32 tiles. Custom turf implementations. If there's I want to make it as extensible as possible, but if there's something that turf doesn't do that you want to do, maybe you could build your own version of turf that matches the turf protocol and just does things a little differently. And as long as it matches that protocol, it can do whatever you want. But the overall dream for turf is to be the second largest and most interesting open world social experience. Does anyone know what the first largest and most interesting one is? Real life, that's right, okay. So turf, I'm hoping will be second. It's decentralized, so as many people can build on it as they want. It's open source, so if you want to add some features, go ahead. I'll try and take your PRs into due consideration. There's theoretically no limit to this. It's just up to us. So I'd like to show you what's happening on midlev-mindyr in the demo. I was gonna accept this portal and go there ahead of time, but I forgot to. So we might have to wait for a little bit. But if it's too bad, I can just show you. So I received a portal here. I created it, and I'm just going to skip ahead because sometimes my planet can be a bit slow. It's hosted on my computer at home. So this is what you see if you go to midlev-mindyr, and it's actually a QR code. So you can go ahead and scan that if you feel like it, and then you'll get a free planet with turf pre-installed from Red Horizon. The first 48 people to sign up with this can get their own free planet. The first 2 were used by me and Wyatt to test this out for the demo. So yeah, that's turf as it stands and as it hopefully will stand. And I think we have some time for questions if anyone wants to be brave, ask some questions. Yes, Topher. Huh? Oh, go ahead and clap. Yeah, that's great. Alrighty. Oh, I see a hand. Who is that? Oh, yes, Jack.
Hey, so this is really freaking awesome. I don't know if you ever played like StarCraft or Warcraft back in the day. No? But basically, like, the idea was they had these games, and they had like base games, right? Like they're a game in and of themselves, but they had this option where it was like you could just use those assets to customize and create any sort of game that you want. So there was like a really, really rich ecosystem of people just modding StarCraft or modding Warcraft to create all sorts of custom games. So it's like there's just any sort of game like you can think of. People were really, really creative. And actually, I don't know if you know, like Dota. Dota started off as a mod of Warcraft using like their engine. So what I think of when I see this is like, I think it'd be really cool if turf could be some sort of not like a game in and of itself, but like as an underlying engine in which like anybody could implement any sort of game or experience as they want. Like maybe I want my house to be like a little museum, or maybe I want like my turf to be an RPG, like whatever. Like so like not just like customizing the space, but customizing like any sort of like game-like interaction. I think that could be really cool. I was wondering if you thought about anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not too familiar with the examples you gave, but I definitely want to find ways to let people, customize the behavior of the turf as much as possible, like mini games. I think Pac-Man is pretty doable with not too much stuff, but yeah, I love to do as much of that as possible.
Yeah, I just like really thought of a game engine was coming to mind when I was thinking about the possibilities here. But anyways, yeah, thank you.
What's the UI richening?
The UI is a combination of solid.js and phaser.js. So the game engine part is phaser.js, just for rendering sprites and animations and stuff like that. And then the sidebar is solid.js. And I use a solid.js reactivity framework for sort of driving game updates as well.
Good choice in solid.
Thanks. I can't really see anyone else. All right, I think that's it. Thank you very much for your time.